Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you who've taken out the time to join this session. I'm very glad to have you all in the session on education technology. My name is Pratik, and I'll be your host for today. So, before we begin, a few housekeeping points to note. All attendees will be on mute, so I request everyone to please ask in your questions in the questions tab, which is on the left hand side on your panel. This session will be an interactive panel discussion, and slides will be used only as placeholders. And I would encourage everyone to please participate in the polls. Just to give you a heads up, we will have a couple of them during the session. To start with, I would like to introduce our panelists for today. With us, we have Raju Vegesna, who's the Chief Evangelist with Zoho Corporation. Raju has been with Zoho for over 2 decades now, and he has held various positions and is strategically involved in the evolution of Zoho suite of products. Nice to have you here, Raju.
Thank you for inviting me, Pratik.
Yes, Raju. So, can you take a few minutes to share Zoho's vision of how we are trying to revolutionize the education sector in specific?
From Zoho's point of view, obviously, we want to offer the tools and technologies needed for the industry. But frankly, end of the day, tools are purely enablers. And I would consider tools successful if they simply get out of the way. In other words, if a student or a teacher or a parent was able to get things and done efficiently and accomplish their job without worrying about what tool to use and without worrying about the technology aspect of it, then I would consider that a success. So, tools should not be the focus. The focus in this sector should be about education. And our goal at Zoho is to offer the right tools that enable the end goal for the education market and simply get out of the way so that they don't think too much about the tools but focus on the task at hand. So certainly several tools are needed, but end of the day, these tools are enablers. So as I said, it getting out of the way and tools not being the focus should be the key.
Sure thing, Raju. Can't agree with you more. Thanks for that. Also, with us, we have another speaker, also a Zoho customer. We have Simon Whitebridge from RCSI, which is basically a medical institute in Bahrain. Thanks for joining us, Simon.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, Simon. So, to begin with, can you please share your role as a consultant at RCSI and how you've been involved with implementation of new systems there?
Well, I've been a consultant for RCSI for nearly 4 years now, and I've been working on some of the strategic improvements for the university. My initial involvement was when the university was looking for a new human resource management system, and we were looking at various different solutions, and finally selected Zoho People, which we found a very simple tool to use. It was very quick to implement and very cost-friendly. Once we implemented Zoho People, we actually started looking at some other Zoho products, and we went on to implement Zoho Recruit, and then we started using Zoho Project, and then we came across Zoho Creator, which we have found to be hugely beneficial to digitize a lot of our processes. We've been using Zoho Creator for about 2.5 years now. We have written probably about 70 applications using Zoho Creator now, which cover the full range of the university. We've written applications which covered the admissions process right through to an application which tracks the alumni globally. We also use Zoho Analytics as well, which is a very good tool for MIS.
Thanks for that, Simon. Yeah. So, to quickly, in a nutshell, if I were to put the overview of this session, I would broadly have 3 buckets of topics that we really want to cover. The first is what is EdTech and what are the current trends in the industry right now. Second would be the challenges with adoption, like universities like RCSI that they have faced. And third will be the future of EdTech, what really is going to be the new normal in these unprecedented times. So, Simon, can you please give us an overview of what EdTech really means for RCSI and how has it been during these uncertain times?
Well, this is a very interesting question, and the answer to this question has changed dramatically over the past 3 months. Just as Raju mentioned in his introduction, technology has previously been considered as an enabler for education, but more recently it's become a critical part of education. So just as, well, practically every school and university globally now, we've now moved to a completely distance learning solution. We have no students on site, and all the teaching is done remotely. So technology is now a critical part of university life. We use, just like most organizations now, are Microsoft Teams for lectures. We record lectures. We have online lectures. We use Blackboard collaborators well for teaching. So right now, technology is crucial for the teaching side of our work. The other thing which has become very critical, I think, right now, is the examination side of things, because the coronavirus has hit at a time when some students were planning to take their final examinations, and clearly that it couldn't be done in a normal manner. So we have had to very quickly move to a technology-driven examination process. So we have moved to an online examination process. So we have faced some issues because clearly proctoring is a crucial part of any examination process, and this is one of the challenges which we've been facing recently, to make sure that the examinations are actually completed fairly, and the students actually are awarded the grades and the certificates which they deserve.
Thanks for that, Simon. So, Raju, what's your take on that? Because increasingly, I think we get asked this question by our customers and prospects as to why should they invest in a platform when the same thing can really be achieved through books or Excel sheets. So, what is your take on that, Raju?
Well, EdTech itself is fairly broad. Technology in that context of education, can be used on the administration side of things. As Simon has been using some of these tools for administrative purposes. The fact that he needed, say, 70 applications means there is a specific niche for which you need tools for that. These are not Excel sheets you're filling. But administration is one aspect to it. And then there is tool set and toolkit needed for teachers. Then there is toolkit needed for students. And of course, then toolkit or the tools used to communicate with the parents. And then there are other aspects of it as well. What technology you use for what context is the key. Not everything is relevant, especially when you have multiple parties involved. Communication becomes the key, particularly in this context, in the current world we live in the remote world. Communication tools play a prominent role in the context of technology. So it is the expansion of technology in the context of education, and we are seeing that today. Certainly, some can be achieved, some of the tasks can be achieved using the historical tools, and that will continue to be the case. Now, the education technology toolkit has all of a sudden expanded based on the current dimensions in the world, and that everyone benefits from it, from productivity tools to collaboration tools to communication tools to other tools like Creator And all of these come together. The key is all of these tools coming together to become the enabler for the market.
Thanks for that perspective, Raju. Yeah. So, just to understand where the audience is in their digital transformation journey, I would like to start a poll, and I encourage everyone to participate in this. So, that should come up in a few seconds from now. So, how many of you have already transitioned to remote working environments? I'll give that a few seconds. We see a good percentage of people who are already done transitioning during these uncertain times of this COVID crisis, where everyone is really locked down, but the work is still going on. So, Simon, what do you think will be the future like? Like, do you think people will move on to a more online and offline hybrid model, or do you things will just go back to how they were before? How do you think this will transition into?
I think that recent recent events has changed the face of education. 3 months ago, we would have never dreamt of having an online lecture or recording a lecture. Okay, because we didn't consider it to be a worthy way of actually teaching our students. But 3 months later, okay, we've actually realised that it's actually a very good way of teaching, and so we're now considering the teaching scenarios for the academic year 2020-2021, and we will now be considering online training as part of the curriculum. Clearly, as we're a medical university, and doctors and nurses cannot graduate without actually spending time with patients and having a practical education, we can't possibly move to a totally online situation, but it will definitely become part of our education going forward.
Sure, Simon. Raju, another point here, as you rightly mentioned, while tools are just one part of the solution, there are different things that are to be addressed for a successful remote education program. So, can you throw more light on that and help us understand what are those other things that need to be addressed apart from the tools that Zoho brings to the market?
Sure. There are the tools part, but there are two aspects. One, tools in the context of education, in-person education, and tools in the context of remote education. Now, remote education brings in new challenges. Part of it is communication. Not everyone is communicative. Not every student will be able to express, because remote education brings in some challenges from various aspects, like the interaction between the students will be lost directly, in-person interaction. There is a formal learning, but then there is an informal learning that goes through, based on the peer interaction that is lost. The social skills that are learned in a school environment is lost in a remote environment. Certainly, there are other things, intangibles. There's no way to replicate that in the online world, at least not yet. So, how can the tools evolve to address some of these challenges we may see in the remote world? And that is the key thing. Do tools play a role, or are we just replicating whatever we are doing in an in-person school in a remote environment? If tools are just replicating the same, then we may not see the real benefits of it. We have to figure out a new model, because this is a completely new model, and we have to look for the right solution that works for this new model, and the tools have to come and address those challenges. There are certainly some advantages of the remote model, of course, which is you can now learn from anywhere. That means affordability goes high. You don't have to get into massive debts hopefully to learn something, because you can learn with lower cost. In this case, we are only talking about lower tool costs, and technology helps with that. So and you can learn from anyone, any expert that you believe in globally. So there are several advantages to the remote education. There are several disadvantages to the remote education. Tools can help in both, and I don't think we have solved all these problems. I think we are still in the first innings. There is a long way to go, and tools have to come in and evolve for this new model, and we are just getting started on that front. There is also psychological elements of it, which no tools can address. I think those are things where it comes through communication. It comes through teachers being very extra communicative with the students. And in fact, in the remote world, the parents play an increasingly important role, because remotely a teacher cannot purely rely on tools and the communication out there. So parents should be brought into the loop in the remote education context. So we are just getting started, and there is a long way to go in the remote education from the tools point of view, and also us as a society adopting remote education as the norm.
Yes, thanks for that, Raju. Simon, just as a follow-up question on that, while tools can't really do everything, but what are the small initiatives that are taken by RCSI to sort of connect the dots and make a more engaging platform for students to learn and also, come to pace with the curriculum?
Concerns that we have had is that we have the tool to be able to perform the teaching, and the hence the students have the tool to be able to learn. Okay, but we need. Sorry, are we concerned about the effectiveness of this? Okay, so we have the enablers, but whether this actually provides the quality of teaching and learning we require, jury's still out on this one. I think. Okay, we have put in processes to both help the teachers and the students with with both sides of the technology. Okay, so we have helped the teachers learn how to actually teach in an online environment, how to record their lectures, how to interact with the students whilst they're actually carrying out, say, a real-time online lecture. And then from the students' point of view, we have a student well-being department, and they have been ensuring that the students have the right environment for learning, that they have the right support, as Reggie mentioned, from their parents, and that they actually take responsibility for ensuring that they do make the most of the learning experience. Because this is relatively new, we are not really sure about the effectiveness, and we will learn from recent activity. So that's all I have on this, I think.
Yeah, sure thing, Simon. In fact, it was interesting to know one of the schools just outside Chennai, Vidya Mandir, had quickly implemented and onboarded more than 900 students on Zoho's platform. So definitely, there are a lot of different elements to it, and it's more of an ecosystem of schools, colleges, wherein there are students and parents and the tutors. Everyone are involved in this, and they have to definitely contribute to make the most out of these times. So moving on to the next part, which is the rise of EdTech revolution. Simon, it was interesting to note that a couple of months ago, you just had around 50 apps built on Creator, but specifically for some survey that you ran internally, or I think among thousands of doctors, you had to scale up and build 20 more applications within a very short frame of time. So, can you elaborate more on that and what the applications were really used for?
Yes, well, one of the applications we created was to create a survey regarding doctors' knowledge about coronavirus. Okay, so we created a survey which went out globally, and the subsequent paper that was written from the feedback went to the British Medical Journal to hopefully be published. So we collated results from the survey there. Another example of an application which we've just written is that we are heading some of the clinical trials for coronavirus within Bahrain, and one of the applications is to record the results of the clinical trials. So we've been doing a plasma trial with hydroxychloride. Sorry, I'm not familiar with the actual medical term, but the doctors are carrying around their iPads with Zoho Creator applications running on recording the patients' results and then feeding them back to the university. We have written our business continuity plan within a Zoho Creator application, many different things, but definitely within the past 3 months, the use of Zoho Creator has increased dramatically because it helps with the communication, with the workflow, with the notifications. It just makes remote working a lot simpler, and because Zoho Creator is cloud-based, that means that anybody can log into Zoho Creator from wherever they are, from anywhere in the world.
Definitely, yep. And it was also interesting to know that RCSI has been involved in doing these medical trials on COVID-19 patients.
Yes.
Great feat on that. Yeah, thanks. And also during after the end of the session, we will be sending out as handouts the RCSI case study of how you've implemented Zoho Creator. So that can be a reference point for all the audience out there. Moving on, we have another poll for the audience, and it should be up in a few seconds now. I encourage everyone to please participate and send in your feedback. And so the question really is, if you had a chance, would you continue with remote or digital education after situation reaches normalcy? We'll give it a couple of seconds more. And very clearly, I think everyone wants to really continue with remote education even after things are back to normal. So, Raju, that brings us to another important aspect, privacy and safety, basically. So, how is Zoho doing its own bit of ensuring the security of data is taken care of? Can you add to that, Raju?
Yeah, frankly, I'm a little disappointed with the current education system where they don't give enough importance to privacy. Recently, my daughter came to me and said, "I need help with creating a Facebook account and a Google account," and the school has standardized on some of these. So here we are, as a parent. I myself don't use any of those, but I cringe whenever I have to create an account for a kid. And these companies' business models. I call some of these companies who depend on advertising as their primary business model. I call them surveillance companies. So when you're forced to create an account and deliberately providing information about a student, a young kid, and when you're forced to do that, not considering the privacy implications, As a parent, certainly for me, it was damning. I wish the education institutes take privacy more seriously. Here we are, forcing tracking of users' behavior right from a young age, and that certainly is a pretty damning situation. Certainly, as a parent, for me. Now, certainly we, as even at the business level, we take a strong stance against the current abuse that's happening in the context of data protection and users. So we basically take a strong stance. That is the reason on Zoho properties you will not see a Zoho Google code or any of these trackers out there. We got rid of every single tracker out there on our code. So we take privacy extremely seriously, and we want to treat information just like we want our information to be treated. So from that point of view, I wish the education industry and the colleges, schools take privacy more seriously, and it becomes an important aspect of their evaluation of the technology stuff. Obviously, from Zoho's side, we never advertising is not part of the business model, because a lot of this abuse comes from a business model. And when you have an advertising centric business model, that compromises on data, user tracking and all of that. So we have never done ads. 24 years in, as you can see, Zoho has never done ads. And if you can see our privacy page, we basically make it fairly simple. We don't own your data, you do. We'll never sell your data, and we'll never do advertising. That has been our commitment for 20 plus years, and we continue to be committed to that. And also, even with our free version, and we have several free applications out there, even with the free edition, we do not do advertising or we do not sell data. I think that is an important commitment from us. It's a moral stance. End of the day, can you make more money by cutting some deals? Absolutely. But that moral stance is more important than making that extra money. So we take privacy very seriously, and we believe that's a very important stance. And I hope that education institutes and students and the parents demand that the tools that are picked that protect students' information, and not purely because a tool is free.
Thanks for that, Raju. And definitely, it's very reassuring for all students and institutes alike, because privacy should be taken very seriously. And I can't agree with you more. So, Simon, what is your take on that? Are you seeing some trends on adoption of technology wherein privacy is also an important aspect that you were considering for implementing a software at RCSI?
Data privacy has been a hot topic in Bahrain in the past year, because back in August 2019, Bahrain implemented their personal data privacy law, which is similar to GDPR, but slightly different. And so of course, data privacy has been very much on our radar. We have, though, made investments in Zoho products, in Zoho People's, Zoho Recruiter, and Zoho Creator. And I must admit that we have trusted Zoho to take care of our data, because right now the universities payrolls in the Zoho cloud. All our student data is in the cloud. We have put trust in Zoho that the data will be protected, and we are not concerned about it. Rather, we're not concerned about Zoho with regards to data.
Thank you for that, Simon. I think in a nutshell, that says RCSI definitely trusts Zoho on that.
Yes.
Thanks a lot. So moving on, I think we will open the floor for questions, and I encourage everyone in the audience to really ask your questions and any concerns if you may have. And we will project a few good ones, and we have, I think, around 15 minutes or so to end the session. Yeah. We have this one interesting question that says, how are you seeing future of universities going touchless? Do you see straight through processing playing a big role? Raju, can you take that up?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is, to me, the most important point when it comes to education is student debt. And if the universities are going touchless and going remote, will that reduce the fee structure? Will that help the student? Because today, frankly, students are becoming slave to their debts, and that's having a negative impact in our community, and that has to change. And will the universities adopt to this new system that is focused on the tech, focused on remote education, focused on the volume, focused on reducing the cost for the student, focused on effective education, and more on education and less on grade system? If that is the case, I think the universities will survive and thrive. If they continue to, extract whatever they can from the student, if they continue to focus on test taking skills instead of knowledge, then I don't think some of those universities will survive. So we are at a critical moment where how many universities and colleges and schools will make the transition, that becomes important, because now if things go online, the good universities with the right values, with the right system, will automatically bubble up. So it doesn't matter whether the university is in Bahrain or Bangalore or Bombay. So it really doesn't matter. It Now they have a competing ground that is equal at all levels, and that changes things. Now, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But my guess is, if things remain this way, and if the remote education becomes the norm, this completely changes the university system and the incentive system that they are historically used to. The ones that pivot to the new model will be the ones that thrives. The ones that don't, we may not see them anymore.
Thanks for that, Raju.
Because really, this question depends on the type of educational establishment and what it's trying to achieve. Clearly, a medical university couldn't possibly go touchless. Okay, the clinical aspect of medical training is a huge part of the doctors and nurses' education. Okay, would you trust a doctor who had never seen a patient before? No, of course not. Okay, so really, for a medical university, part of the education could be remote, but definitely you could not move to a totally online system. Definitely not. Never.
Thanks for that, Simon. One more question that has been asked many times by our audience is, digital education has really affected smaller schools and especially non-English speaking schools, wherein they were not ready, and now they feel like they're trapped and with no fees and incoming revenue, so they won't be able to invest much. How can Zoho help here? Raju, can you take that up?
Sure. Obviously, we have a lot of tools that we can offer in the education side, right from enabling some of these teachers and students. So we're talking about applications like Click for communication, audio conferencing, video conferencing. We're talking about Zoho Meeting, webinars, and Showtime, the one we are using now for remote training and remote discussion. Or we also recently introduced Zoho Classes, which is primarily for students and teachers to interact. Of course, we have Zoho Creator for use across teachers as well as administrators and beyond. Of course, we have the Office suite, the presentations, the spreadsheets, the content management. There are a lot of tools that fit in that criteria. What we recently did was, in this particular context, we said in a lot of these regions, in several regions, we are going to be offering it for free for colleges and students that are trying to transition. So in some regions, like for example in India, we offered some of these tools for free for colleges and students that are trying to transition. So my recommendation would be just to reach out saying that this is what you're doing, and you need some help. The team will take it up. At this point of time, as a company, as Zoho, we have simple thing called survive and serve. As a company, we are going to be surviving this. We are in the mode of serving the community. And if there are some colleges and schools that are struggling with technology, we are ready to serve that, even if it means offering the tools for free. So my recommendation would be to reach out to our teams and have a discussion, and would love to take it up.
Thanks for that, Raju. Another interesting question here. If online takes off, would we really need teachers? That's an interesting question. Simon, would you want to take that?
It's a very interesting question. I guess the question is, can students teach themselves? Yeah, and I would say probably not. For students to engage in online and remote learning, especially young children, it's very, very difficult, and they need someone to interact and to motivate them. And so I really can't see how they could teach themselves. And for the older students, they might log into the session, but who knows if they actually learn anything from it, or they could be logged in but actually doing something else, playing on social media whilst they're actually logged into a lecture. Somebody needs to be monitoring them. Someone needs to make sure they're actually learning. So I don't think that a teacherless environment would actually work at all. No.
And if I may add to that, the incentive system has to be optimized. I mean, do we need teachers? Hell yeah, absolutely. There is a different or a economic incentive system that is disconnected. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in computer science. What I learned there was pretty useless. And part of it is, in my case, my teachers weren't great, but then I look back and realize what's the difference. The difference is the students that are graduating from college and then getting a job elsewhere is often paid more than the teacher itself. The teacher and the payment system and the salaries of the teachers should be significantly more than what they are today. That system has to be better, and that means that will attract better teachers, and that will help the overall system. So if that economic system is done better, then good teachers will continue to stay in the institutes, in the system, and that will help the overall education and their interaction with the students. Students will start to see value. All of those will flow in. Currently, there is a disconnect between the the teacher and the value that they bring in versus how they are incentivized. There is that disconnect, and that disconnect has to be solved. So teachers, if anything, has to be given more prominence, and they play an increasingly important role, and the pressure increases on them, particularly in a remote world, where they not only are teaching, they are also have to remotely communicate and communicate a lot more, and they play an increasingly important role in the newer context.
Thank you for that, Raju. We'll probably take a couple of more questions. There are a lot of questions on product comparisons and what Zoho Creator can specifically do. We can probably reply one-on-one after the session. So here is one for you, Raju, one more. From a student's point of view, do we run the risk of EdTech bringing down the student learning experience?
Will it have a negative impact? In some contexts, absolutely. There's no doubt. How will we cope up to fill that gap, fill that void is the key. I don't know if complete remote learning is ideal, because as I was saying, the social skills to the informal learning, and other aspects that are equally important will be missing in the remote world. And there is also an option, and I think we'll end up seeing or meeting somewhere in between. A lot of education can happen remote, but imagine going to the school once every 2 weeks, and working on a lab, working on a project. Then you're trying to merge the two instead of going to school on a daily basis and trying to learn, but instead you make it a biweekly rhythm. So some of that will evolve, because we will learn the negative sides of remote education. And I'm more worried about the psychological impact that it has on students. Them staying at home and learning for 1 month might be fine, but can you imagine doing that for multiple months or multiple years? That certainly in the young kids crave that social interaction, and when that part is missing, it will have a negative consequences. And we are just getting started on that. We haven't scratched the surface. We're going to uncover a lot of those, and we have to address this. I think the system will learn quickly and morph itself to accommodate that.
Thank you for that, Raju. And I think we can probably wrap up the session. And thank you for everyone for joining us. And we will get back to you with the responses. There are a lot of interesting questions. Shruti, please make note of them. We will get back to all of them. Yeah. Once again, thank you for joining us, Simon and Raju. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you for having us.